from Washington, D.C.
From Bloomberg's Washington, D.C. studios to our TV and radio audiences worldwide, welcome to Balance of Power. I'm Joe Matthew. We kick things off tonight with some breaking news. The President of the United States holding an event at the White House announcing a $100 billion commitment by Apple for domestic manufacturing. Apple CEO Tim Cook is on hand for the announcement that could begin at any time now. With you on Bloomberg TV, a live view of the White House standing by from the president. We're also going to bring you news on the potential meeting between President Trump and Presidents Putin and Zelensky as soon as next week. And as U.S. soldiers are shot at Fort Stewart, the accused gunman now in custody. We have a lot to cover, but it's the big news from the White House and Apple tonight that we're leading off with, and the best of Bloomberg to support our coverage with Washington Deputy Bureau Chief Laura Davison here in D.C., Bloomberg's Michael McKee in New York, Mark Gurman from California, and Vonnie Quinn tracking Apple's rally, and the rest of the market moving with our global headquarters in New York. Thanks to all of you for joining us here. President Trump about to join things pretty close to the top of the hour here, accusing two of the nation's largest banks, meantime, of debanking, something that we might get to here in a moment with several banking CEOs. And we want to start things off with Laura Davison here in Washington. Laura, this is going to be obviously a big moment for the president as well as Tim Cook, the latest in a series of big investment announcements from major corporations. In some cases, though, it's been money that may have been already announced. Is this new cash, and where is it going?
It's not yet clear, exactly how all of this is. We've seen, time after time, Nvidia, other companies coming out and announcing these big, eye-popping, big round numbers, as Trump really likes. But this is a clear sign that Tim Cook knows how to play the game with Trump. He was really the only CEO during the first term who was able to kind of really crack the code with Trump. He was able to avoid a lot of tariffs. Should not be a surprise that this announcement is coming just hours before a fresh round of tariffs are set to hit at midnight. And we saw even earlier that some of these new tariffs on India are not going to affect Apple as much. Tim Cook has been very good about trying to get some of these exceptions to hit goods from his company.
News helped Apple stock today. It's up $10, a little more than 5%. Are we to believe that iPhones are going to start being made here in the U.S.? What is it they're actually investing in?
They say it's for domestic manufacturing, but any of these plants would take years to get up and running, well past Trump's time in office, perhaps, plus the labor force issues, even getting some of the components to make them here. So it's really not clear, if this is more of just an announcement or if there'll be much follow through afterwards.
Interesting. All right. So with that said, we're going to be hearing from the president. We'll bring the remarks to us, to our audience here live in just a moment. He's spending time with a lot of CEOs at the White House here, and this fulfills the idea of more investment in the United States, which is frequently cited by the administration as a reason to worry less, for instance, about the cost of tariffs, that the investment is happening, the reshoring is taking place in this country. Will Tim Cook agree with that view?
It's, he has been able to thread this needle, but it's been interesting. Trump really has liked to surround himself with these CEOs. We also saw the bank CEOs here as well last week. Jamie Dimon, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon as well. So this has been kind of a clear thing for him. He also likes to bounce ideas. So he'll ask, what do you think about this tariff? What do you think about this policy? And also, what do you think about this person as Fed chair?
All right. Bloomberg's Laura Davison, thank you so much. Now for a look at the economic implications around this event, plus news we're getting regarding the soon-to-be vacant seat on the Federal Reserve. We turn to Bloomberg's Michael McKee, who joins us live. Michael, the administration has a great story to tell. If you talk to some of the president's economic advisors about corporate investment here domestically, Apple is the poster child today. To what extent is it going to help grow the economy and produce jobs?
Well, it would if there's a lot of follow through. But Laura brought up a very good point, and that is we don't know whether this is actual commitments, signed contracts kind of thing, or whether this is just promises telling Donald Trump what he wants to hear. Apple, at the beginning of the Trump administration, beginning of this year, announced they would put in $500 billion in over the next 4 years in investments. But that was exactly what they told the Biden administration when they began, and what they told the first Trump administration. So it isn't clear how much of this stuff gets done. If it all gets done, if we do get a lot of investment in plants, that would be good news for the economy overall.
Big news on the Fed today, Michael, this idea of a fill-in Fed governor. The president gave us some insights into the search for a new Fed governor late yesterday. Let's start with what he said. Listen.
Fed governor. I'll be making that decision before the end of the week, and we'll either decide on one for permanence or the 4-month period, the term. There's a term of about a number of months. We have a couple of candidates. Everybody wants it, okay? It's not a couple, but we've narrowed it to a couple of candidates. And we've also, we're looking at the Fed chair, and that's down to 4 people right now.
Now we have Bloomberg reporting that the selection might actually take some time. And the way to buy time is to basically appoint a temporary Fed governor. Michael McKee, how would this work, and what's the point?
2 very good questions. You could nominate somebody to be a temporary replacement to the 5 months left in Kugler's term, although given the Senate calendar and the way Congress works, it's doubtful that this person would get more than maybe 3 months, 2 months in office. And there are only going to be, after September 17th, 3 more meetings at which that person could vote. And so it's probably also meaningless in terms of what the policy is going to be of the Fed. We've got more and more Fed officials, including Lisa Cook today and Mary Daly, suggesting that they are open to the idea of a rate cut in September. So that may happen no matter what happens with the Kugler appointment, whether the president appoints somebody who would advocate for a rate cut or give Jay Powell a hard time. If the majority start thinking they should cut rates, then we'll probably get a rate cut, and this seat won't matter.
Bloomberg's Michael McKee, thank you so much, Mike. As we turn back to this investment from Apple now and Tim Cook's decision to attend the announcement at the White House that could begin at any time, we bring in Bloomberg's Apple expert, Mark Gurman, who covers the company and joins us from our Los Angeles bureau. It's great to have you, Mark. You've told us under no uncertain terms here on this program that Apple will never make the iPhone here in the United States. So what is this investment for?
Well, I don't want to say never because the future is very long. Who knows what could happen in 5 years from now? But if you want to put never in the category of for as long as Trump is president, then sure, we can say never. What are they doing? They're going to start manufacturing 100% of the display cover glass on iPhones and Apple Watches in the U.S. via Corning in Kentucky. This is an extension of what they've already been doing for years. Corning has produced glass for iPhones in Kentucky since the original iPhone. Steve Jobs famously made that decision with Tim Cook and Apple's former COO Jeff Williams. Now this is expanding to the watch and all iPhones sold globally. I think it's a pretty big win for Trump, but this is far from mass manufacturing that he had probably been hoping for.
Interesting. If it's a win for Trump, is it also a win for Apple? Stock moved up 5% on this today.
Well, the stock moved up because, yes, it is a win for Apple because the expectation is Tim Cook did something nice for Trump. He can now go back and say he got the world's most innovative technology company, one of the biggest companies in the history of the country, to do something really big in the U.S., even if they've already been doing it for the most part in the U.S. Now he can give Tim Cook a nice little break on tariffs. So that's how it rolls with the president, and Tim Cook is playing the game. Can't really argue with him for it.
We've got our eyes on the Oval Office where a podium has been set up next to the Resolute desk. Do we expect Tim Cook to speak at this event, Mark? And how do we describe their relationship right now? It seems to have been on again, off again. But this got to be a good sign with Tim Cook making a deal with the president.
I absolutely expect Tim Cook to speak. Would be shocked if he didn't. Otherwise, I don't see the reason for him to be there and for them to time the announcement with an Oval Office speech. So this is pretty significant. Cook is there. There's a whole bunch of people from the Apple brass there, and definitely expect him to reiterate his remarks about being committed to the U.S. and working with the Trump administration. For the relationship, I can't speak to how they feel about each other on a personal level, but all things considered, it looks like an extremely harmonious business working relationship.
How about that? It's great to have you on this day of days, Mark. And of course, we'll bring you inside this event once it begins. Bloomberg's Vonnie Quinn has been on hand monitoring this event, preparing for it to begin, and the market reaction to Apple's news today. She joins us live from world headquarters in New York for tonight's Power Moves. Vonnie?
Well, Joe, it's fascinating because even with this rally today, and Mark mentioned it, a nice 5% rally for Apple, the stock is only up 3% year over year. It is, in fact, year to date down almost 15%. So it's not like this rally is going to actually do much for the stock overall. However, it did help today's market environment And I do want to point out as well that, $800 billion had to be eaten by Apple in the latest quarter. We heard that from Tim Cook in the earnings call, and he projected $1.1 billion, thanks to tariffs, are going to be eaten in the next quarter. So when you have those two figures to hand, $600 billion over the next 4 years, pales in significance. So there is, some interest on the part of Apple to be investing in America, even to that extent, if there's any chance at all that it helps a little bit with the carve-outs or with the 232 investigations. That's all to come. But I do want to point out today's action, because that Apple story did basically set the tone for today's equity rally, and we saw that resume once again. So you had the S&P 500 up 0.75% after a down day yesterday. You had the Nasdaq 100 up 1.3%. Even as we saw some of the other Mag 7 names pull back just a little bit. And just to point out, in relation to Apple, which is down 15%, Nvidia, for example, is up 70% year over year. So, I mean, we really are seeing some of the Mag 7 step out and some of the others step in again. That was Tesla and Apple today. I want to point out as well that we also saw treasuries not doing too much. And I'm going to leave it there, Joe. We'll explain more later on.
Okay, well, very good. Obviously, this was a big day for Apple, and one that's not over yet. When the president starts speaking, we'll bring you into the Oval Office. We have Secretary Bessent and Lutnick standing by, so this could start as any moment. As we await for the president, we turn to Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. It's good to have you back with us, Congressman. During the district work period, there's been a lot of talk about town halls. There's also been a lot of talk about redistricting, and I keep hearing Massachusetts come up. The president even mentioned your state last evening as an example of Democrats gerrymandering themselves into an all-Democratic delegation. As we wait to hear from the president, and I'll apologize to you in advance, Congressman, if we have to interrupt you, I'm just wondering your thoughts on what's happening right now in Texas. If Republicans do succeed in redrawing the congressional map, what will be Democrats' answer?
We'll put on our brass knuckles, too. California, New York, whatever it takes. We cannot allow Republicans to rig the maps to disenfranchise Americans in pursuit of craven political power. But as we wrestle in the mud, we also want to aim Americans to a higher plane. We should be campaigning on an anti-corruption platform that includes abolishing partisan primaries, which have pulled both parties to their flanks, independent redistricting commissions, and overturning Citizens United to get dark money out of politics.
Well, it could be California, we understand. That may come first. By the way, we are seeing President Trump in the Oval Office right now as he's standing aside Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, and we'll join this conversation in just a moment when they get to the business at hand. Congressman, California has been cited as the most likely opportunity for Democrats to redraw maps and meet Republicans in this exercise. Do you see it that way?
Yes, California. I guess
we're going to join Donald Trump right now. Congressman, I apologize. This is the president live on Bloomberg.
This horrible person. This afternoon, we're pleased to welcome to the White House one of the great and most esteemed business leaders and geniuses and innovators anywhere in the world, Apple CEO Tim Cook. It's an amazing job. Thanks as well to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick for being here, wherever you may be. Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion. It's the biggest there is. The company is also unveiling its ambitious new American manufacturing program, which will bring factories and assembly lines across our country all roaring to life. Areas that were not doing so well are doing very well. We have about $17 trillion coming into the United States, which is more than ever before. That's never even come close. There's never been anything like it. Even you, that's even a lot of money for you. But we have commitments of more than $17 trillion. That was as of a couple of weeks ago. These investments will directly create more than 20,000 brand new American jobs and many thousands more at the Apple suppliers like Corning, Broadcom, Texas Instruments, and Samsung, who all deal in that world. As part of this historic commitment, Apple will massively increase spending on its domestic supply chain for the iPhone and will build the largest and most sophisticated smart glass production line in the world in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, which is a great, actually, I did very well there. I like it because I see I did very well there. I did very well in Kentucky, but it's a great place. You're going to be very happy. I thought maybe while we're up, I'll interrupt my own speech by you might show them a little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I step up?
Yes, please.
This bond was made in the U.S., California, and this glass comes off the Corning line. It's engraved for President Trump. It's a unique unit of one. It was designed by a U.S. Marine Corps corporal, a former one, that works at Apple now.
That's good. He's done well.
Designed it for you. And the base comes from Utah and is 24 karat gold. And it sits, I'll take the liberty of setting it up.
Wow.
Tim Cook is speaking to the folks assembled in the Oval Office right now as we watch along here on Bloomberg TV, listening on Bloomberg Radio as he shows a piece of glass to those in the room. As Mark Gurman told us, the company will be using Corning glass made here in the United States in Kentucky. The president's back at the podium. Let's listen.
Isn't that nice? We're doing these things now in the United States instead of other countries, faraway countries. This is a significant step toward the ultimate goal of ensuring that iPhones sold in the United States of America also are made in America. With the mass infusion of capital it's announcing today, Apple will also build a 250,000 square foot server manufacturing facility in Houston and invest billions of dollars to construct data centers across the country from North Carolina to Iowa to Oregon. That's big stuff. Apple will also open state-of-the-art manufacturing economy. It's going to be a manufacturing academy in Detroit, and that's a great place to do. Well, you know, big things are happening in Michigan and Detroit. They're coming in because of what we've done with the, I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill. I added one word, great. But we have probably the biggest, most comprehensive piece of legislation ever passed. It's going to mean unbelievable numbers of jobs and no jobs on, think of this, whether it's tips or overtime or Social Security, no tax. So no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And there's just a small bit of it. For Apple and others businesses, we're talking about the deductions and all of the things. And actually for people that go out and buy a car, first time it's ever been done, we talk about deductions for companies, but they're going to be able to deduct interest when they borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. It has to be made in America. So it is amazing. And one of the reasons I think I can say that Apple's coming here is the legislation we just passed with this kind of investment. Apple will also open other facilities, rare earth magnets from Texas, and build, oh, I love that you're doing this. I love that. I love that. And build a brand new rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. I know that area. That's where they have a lot of truly rare earth. That's fantastic. I love that. And Apple will help develop and manufacture semiconductors and semiconductor equipment in Texas, Utah, Arizona, and New York. For years, Americans have watched as many of our leading tech giants built their factories overseas and exported American jobs abroad. But under the Trump administration, we're doing everything possible to make this the best place on earth to build a factory or grow businesses. I'm allowing them to build electric producing plants with their factory, because otherwise they'd have to hook into the grid. And I think it's one of the biggest things we've done, where you can build, Tim, your own electricity. You become your own electric manufacturer, and that goes along with the plant. So you become a utility. So congratulations. Now you're in the utility. I hope they don't value your company based on utility, but that's okay. You're going to be making your own electricity, and as you probably know, for much of this and many of the things that we're doing, especially the AI, they would need actually double the electricity that the country now produces for everything. So it's massive electric, and they're going to be able to make their own, and they're getting very fast approvals. Lee Zeldin is doing a fantastic job, including with a 100% expensing on the one big, beautiful bill. In return, we're asking our businesses to invest in America, and they're coming in at levels that we've never seen before. So I don't know when it shows up, but there are a lot of factories and a lot of plants that are either under construction or soon will be starting construction. So can't tell you exactly when, but I want to be around in about a year from now and 2 years from now, because we're going to see an explosion, I think, like this country has never seen before. Never. Today's announcement is one of the largest commitments in what has become among the greatest investment booms in our nation's history, and we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world. You know, I told you the story that and Tim, I'll tell you, but I went to the Middle East, and I was with Qatar, I was with UAE and the King of Saudi Arabia, all great leaders. And then I went to NATO and saw many great leaders, and we just finished that about 4 weeks ago. Virtually everyone said, in effect, that we were a dead country 1 year ago. America, this was a dead country. We were dying, we were dead. And now you've got the hottest country anywhere in the world. This would have never happened except for certain people. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Nvidia is investing $500 billion to go along with Apple's $600 billion. $600 billion. Micron, great company, is investing $200 billion. IBM is investing more than $150 billion. SoftBank is investing substantially more than $100 billion. TSMC is investing $200 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $55 billion. Merck, Stellantis, and General Motors are putting many, many billions in. They haven't determined the final number. And many other countries are investing tens of billions of dollars, and I'm not going to give you the whole list because the list is too long to read. But it's hundreds of billions and even trillions. I mean, it's trillions of dollars is being invested right now. Last week, it was announced that our economy grew at 3% in the second quarter, and consumer confidence is surging. Blue-collar wages are rising rapidly. Costs are way down. You know, I listen to these horrendous frauds on CNN and various other fake news networks, and they say costs are up. No, costs are down. Gasoline is down. It's going to soon, I believe, be less than $2 a gallon. It's around $2.40 right now, many places, other than California, where they tax you out of business, but and a couple of others. But gasoline is way down. The price of groceries are down. How about eggs? When I first came here, my first week, the press hit me very hard on eggs. Eggs had quadrupled or something. I said, I didn't know about it. Give me a chance. I've just been here for 4 days. Well, eggs are down. Everything's down. Price is down. The only thing that's up is stock prices. That's really up, and that's through the roof. The stock market has been hitting all-time records, all-time highs. Last week, it was announced that our economy grew at levels that we haven't seen in a long time. But the real levels of growth are going to be judged in a year from now when you start seeing some of these incredible plants, because we have car plants opening. They're coming in from Canada, from Mexico, and from all over the world. And they're coming in because they like the way the election worked out, but they also like the fact that they don't want to pay tariffs. And the tariffs, I think, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. I won't be so specific other than to say, because we don't even know what the final number is. We just made a deal, as you know, with the EU, where they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars. Japan paying hundreds of billions of dollars, and numerous other countries paying hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not even completed there. And as you know, they found $25 billion 3 weeks ago. They said, we have a surplus of $25 billion. And they said, where did this come from? I said, check the tariffs. And they checked. They said, you're right. That's where it came from. And we've really just started. This is just in its infancy. So we have a great country. We have a country that is going to be very rich. It's a country that we're very proud of, but it's going to be very rich. And it's companies like Apple, they're coming home. They're all coming home. And we want them to come home. They have to come home. We're going to treat them really well. We're going to be putting a very large tariff on chips and semiconductors. But the good news for companies like Apple is if you're building in the United States or have committed to build, without question committed to build in the United States, there will be no charge. In other words, we're not going to be charging. So a lot of countries, a lot of companies are leaving various other places and they're coming to the United States. So in other words, we'll be putting a tariff on of approximately 100% on chips and semiconductors. But if you're building in the United States of America, there's no charge, even though you're building and you're not producing yet in terms of the big numbers of jobs and all of the things that you're building. If you're building, there will be no charge. So I just want everyone to know that. And I didn't even tell you that inside. We discussed the concept, but I didn't. So it's a big factor. So 100% tariff on all chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. But if you've made a commitment to build, or if you're in the process of building, as many are, there is no tariff. Okay? If for some reason you say you're building and you don't build, then we go back and we add it up, it accumulates, and we charge you at a later date. You have to pay, and that's a guarantee. So that's a big statement, and I think the chip companies are all coming back home. They're all coming back. You know, we started with Intel, and gradually Intel was just taken over the coals. They were taken to the cleaners, frankly, and moved to other places, in particular Taiwan. But I think a lot of those companies are coming back, and they're coming back very rapidly. So that's a big statement. 100% tariff. I want to thank you very much. Tim, would you like to say a few words about your company, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President, thank you very much for having me here today. You've been a great advocate for American innovation and manufacturing, and I'm grateful for your leadership and your commitment. That's a commitment we share at Apple because American innovation is central to everything we do. Our products are designed here, we're hiring and growing here, and we support 450,000 jobs with thousands of suppliers and partners in all 50 states. Earlier this year, we made our largest ever spending commitment, $500 billion to the U.S. over the next 4 years. That's already yielding results. Earlier this year, we broke ground on a new factory in Houston to make advanced AI servers. And just last month, the very first test unit rolled off that factory's line, proudly made in America. President Trump shared some kind words about that work, but he also asked us to think about what more we could commit to doing. And Mr. President, we took that challenge very seriously. I'm glad to be here with you today, and I'm very proud to say that today we're committing an additional $100 billion to the United States, bringing our total U.S. investment to $600 billion over the next 4 years. As a part of this, we're launching Apple's American Manufacturing Program. It will spur even more production right here in America for critical components used in Apple products all around the world. And we're thrilled to announce that we've already signed new agreements with 10 companies across America to do just that. First, with today's announcements, I'm proud to say that Apple is leading the creation of an end-to-end silicon supply chain right here in America, from design to equipment to wafer production to fabrication to packaging. In Texas, we're working with manufacturers like Texas Instruments, Global Wafers America, and Applied Materials. We're working with Amcor in Arizona and Broadcom and Global Foundries in New York. Thanks to President Trump's vision, and with his help in his first term, we also led the way to bring TSMC to Arizona by committing to be their first and largest customer. Today, they're producing tens of millions of chips for Apple using one of the most advanced process technologies in America today. We're going to keep working with our suppliers to move even more of this incredibly advanced work to America. And this year alone, American manufacturers are on track to make 19 billion chips for Apple in 24 factories across 12 different states. Second, we're committed to buying American-made advanced rare earth magnets developed by MP Materials, which will become part of Apple's devices shipped around the world. MP is the only fully integrated rare earth producer in the United States, and with this partnership, they'll be significantly expanding their flagship facility in Fort Worth, Texas. We're also thrilled to work together on a cutting-edge rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. And third, in Kentucky, we've worked with our partners at Corning to build the world's largest and most advanced smartphone glass production line. And I'm pleased to announce that very soon, this is for the first time ever, every single new iPhone and every single new Apple Watch sold anywhere in the world will contain cover glass made in Kentucky. In addition to the American manufacturing program, we're also significantly growing our investments in AI, including expanding data center capacity in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Iowa, in Arizona, and Oregon. So we're going to keep making investments right here in America. We're going to keep hiring in America. And we're going to keep building technologies at the heart of our products right here in America, because we're a proud American company and we believe deeply in the promise of this great nation. Thank you all, and thank you, President Trump, for putting American innovation and American jobs front and center.
Thank
you, sir.
Great honor.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. What a job he's done. What a job. Incredible. I want to thank you very much, and thank you, JD, for helping along. Good job. Really good job. Any questions, please?
Mr. President,
yes.
You promised on the campaign trail to bring forth a manufacturing renaissance. You just mentioned $17 trillion in your first 7 months or so.
Right.
Can you talk about how an investment like this, all the other ones that you laid out, will positively impact the millions of Americans that trusted you with their vote?
Thank you very much. It changes our country. I mean, our country is a very different country than it was 6 months ago. And people like Tim are coming. We had Micron in yesterday. We had all of the big, great companies that you read about, you don't know about, but you read about. Many of them were making products outside of our country. Foolishly, we lost them. If we had the right person sitting in that seat, that would have never happened 20 and 30 years ago. When you look at the chip business, it would have never left our shores. We had 100% of chips originally, and then we slowly got taken down to nothing. We have the biggest chip companies, to both of them, but we have the biggest in the world coming in. They're going to Arizona and beyond. And we're going to have, in a short period of time, we'll be up to almost 50% of the chips from starting in nothing. And that's something. But we have the greatest companies in the world coming into our country, and that means jobs, and it means wealth, and wealth means security for our people. Okay? Brian?
Yes, sir. Congratulations on this investment, President Trump.
Thank you.
Great example of putting America first. What does the labor force look like to fill these jobs that you have? Do we have enough skilled American workers to fill these?
Well, we do have a lot of workers, and we have a lot of workers that hadn't been looking for work because they were disincentivized, frankly. And people like Tim have tremendous schools and training centers that they build along with a lot of their big plants where they train people on whether it's glass, like in Kentucky, or computers, or whatever they might be doing. It's a complex world, and they train people, and they do a great job. So it's a whole new workforce. Now, we have a lot of them in energy because, you know, they've always liked energy. As you know, coal has opened up big. We brought it back and brought it back in a very large way. You know, China's right now building 58 coal-fired plants, 58 big ones. And here we were saying we don't take coal. We have more coal than anybody else in the world. We have more oil and gas than anybody else in the world. But we have tremendous energy jobs, and the energy, as you know, we're booming with energy. And that's why the gasoline prices are down. The costs are down. I just hope when they watch these shows, I watch this, I won't use names because I just make them better known that nobody knows who they are. But I watch this group of people on CNN and MSDNC too, the same thing, where they say, well, costs have gone up. Costs haven't gone up, they've gone down. I'm telling you, the thing that's gone up is stock prices and success of our country. Our country is really, really doing well, successful. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. President, have Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the round, ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
How close do you think you are to a deal?
Excuse me?
How close do you think you are to some kind of deal?
Well, I don't want to say. I've been disappointed before with this one. You know, we've solved 5 wars, plus add to that Iran, where we wiped out their nuclear capacity for weapons. They would have had a weapon within 2 months, maybe less, and that was totally obliterated. It turned out it was a total obliteration, and the pilots and the people that did that job are really, we have the greatest armed forces in the world, but that was really something. In fact, there's a model of the plane right there. You got to bring that up, Susie. We have to see that. Look at this. This was just given to me. You know, we ordered brand new B-2 bombers. This is a plane that over a period of 36 hours of constant flying. Look at this. So this is the brand new one they just ordered. Similar, but actually quite different. It's new and enhanced. It's an amazing machine. It went 36 hours. We had 52 tankers up in the air loading up our planes because this was surrounded by F-22s and F-35s, and it was flawless, Tim. Even you would say it was flawless. And every one of those bombs hit their target. And then we had Tomahawks shot in from a submarine 300 miles away, and they hit every single Tomahawk hit its target. It was amazing. And that was a big threat. That was a nuclear threat. And here's the new one that we just ordered, a large number of them. I'll put it up.
Mr. President, what was the breakthrough today? Did Vladimir Putin make some kind of concession that he hasn't been willing to make before?
I don't call it a breakthrough. I mean, we've been working on this a long time. There are thousands of young people dying, mostly soldiers, but also, you know, missiles being hit into Kiev and other places. But in terms of soldiers, I think Russia's lost over 20,000 since the beginning of the year. 20,000. And I guess the estimate for Ukraine is about 9,000. It's a terrible situation. We want to get it stopped. You know, we don't have American soldiers there, but I feel I have an obligation to get it stopped. This was not my war. This war would have never started, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years. It went 4 years and didn't start. But this is Biden's war. This was on his watch. And, you know, it's funny. We had no land was taken from Trump. It was taken from Bush. It was taken from Biden. The whole thing they would take from Biden if it weren't for us. But it was and it was taken by Obama. Take a look at what was taken with all of the land that was taken. Nothing was taken by Russia from us. Not 1 ounce of land was taken. I'm here to get the thing over with. It would have never started if I were president. And we're here to get it stopped and get the death stopped. Yeah, please.
President, in the past, you said you would know if Putin was tackling you along. What gives you any confidence that he is or isn't doing that this time around?
Can't answer the question yet. I'll tell you in a matter of weeks, maybe less. But we've made a lot of progress. And as you know, we put a 50% tariff on India on oil. They're the second largest. They're very close to China in terms of the purchase of oil from Russia. But so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But we've had very productive talks today. Yes, ma'am.
President Trump, on federalizing D.C., are you considering taking over the D.C. police? Is that an option on the table?
We're considering it, yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing D.C. to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like. It was just up on television, actually, they were showing it. Now, we want to have a great, safe capital, and we're going to have it. And that includes cleanliness, and it includes other things. We have a capital that's very unsafe. You know, we just almost lost a young man, beautiful, handsome guy that got the hell knocked out of him the night before last. And I'm going to call him now. We wanted to give him a little recovery time. We just put a call into him. They're calling back in a little while, but he went through a bad situation, to put it mildly, and there's too much of it. We're going to do something about it. So whether you call it federalized or what, and that also includes the graffiti that you see, the papers all over the place, the roads that are in bad shape, the medians that are falling down, the median in between roads that's falling down. We're going to beautify the city. We're going to make it beautiful. And what a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else, we're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly, too.
And do you want Congress to look at overturning the D.C. Home Rule Act?
We're going to look at that. In fact, the lawyers are already studying it. We have to run D.C. This has to be the best-run place in the country, not the worst-run place in the country. And it has so much potential. And we're going to take care of it. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe walking down streets. You're not going to get mugged.
Mr. President, if you do reach a deal with Ukraine and Russia, would you drop the additional tariffs on India?
Well, we'll determine that later. But right now, they're paying a 50% tariff. Okay.
Yeah, please. One for Mr. Cook as well.
Yeah, please. Sure.
The president wants a made-in-the-USA iPhone. What are the chances that you can actually make that happen?
Well, if you look at the bulk of it, we're doing a lot of the semiconductors here. We're doing the glass here. We're doing the Face ID module here. And so there's a ton of it. And we're doing these for products sold elsewhere in the world. And so there's a lot of content in there from the United States.
But what about the whole thing?
We're very proud of it.
Can you make the whole thing
is
here?
just the final assembly that you're focused on. And that will be elsewhere for a while.
He makes many of the components here, and we've been talking about it, and the whole thing is set up at other places, and it's been there for a long time. So in terms of cost and all, but I think we may incentivize him enough that one day he'll be bringing that. But he brings most of the stuff. Look, he's not making this kind of an investment anywhere in the world, not even close. He's coming back. I mean, Apple's coming back to America. Thank you.
Mr. President, Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance, buys more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional sanctions?
It's only been 8 hours. So let's see what happens over the next.
Sanctions
you're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of.
You're going to see a lot more. You're going to see so much secondary sanctions. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you were the driving force behind Operation Warp Speed, these mRNA vaccines that are the gold standard.
Right.
Now your health secretary is pulling back all the funding for research. He's saying that the risks outweigh the benefits, which puts him at odds with
Research
the entire
on what?
medical community and with you. What is going on?
Research on what?
Into mRNA vaccines.
Well, we're going to look at that. We're talking about it, and they're doing a very good job. And, you know, that is a past. Operation Warp Speed was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, considered one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. The efficiency, the way it was done, the distribution, everything about it has been amazing. But, you know, that was now a long time ago. And we're on to other things. But we are speaking about it. We have meetings about it tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and we'll determine. We're looking for other answers to other problems, to other sicknesses and diseases. And I think we're doing really well. Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said many times that you want to stop wars in the Middle East. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu is contemplating reoccupying Gaza entirely. Is he defying you, sir, or are you giving him a green light?
Well, we have stopped wars in the Middle East by stopping Iran from having a nuclear weapon, and they're they can say they're going to start all over again, but that's a very dangerous thing for them to do, because we'll be back. As soon as they start, we'll be back. And I think they understand that. They're just words. But no, we've stopped a lot of wars in the Middle East. If you think about what we did with Iran, Iran was the perpetrator of hate, a very evil place, and I think it's going to be a lot different in the coming years.
On the India penalties, do you have any similar plans to enact more tariffs on China as it relates to their purchases?
Could happen. Depends on how we do. Could happen. Brian?
I've got an entertainment-based question for you. A few weeks ago, Stephen Colbert announced that he was leaving his show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time, and I would say pretty much from the beginning. Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that. Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low.
President Trump speaking live in the Oval Office with reporters in a conversation that has made its way from Apple's domestic investment all the way to the stylings of Howard Stern and developments in the entertainment business. So we want to make sure to stop down on the news that was made here today with a red headline crossing the terminal as well during the president's opening remarks that he plans to put a 100% tariff on chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. Washington Deputy Bureau Chief Laura Davison is with us still in studio as we keep our eyes and ears on the president. We'll get back to him if he starts to make more news. Laura, that's a pretty massive development in a story that we saw coming but never had a number for.
That is a huge number. And what that kind of number tells you is that Trump wants to essentially cut off the flow of foreign of semiconductors coming in the U.S. and wants them all to be made here. There's a big exception in there, though. And Apple gets this exception of if you are starting to build, if you have committed and are starting to build chip-related entities here, you suddenly don't have to pay that tariff. So this is where we may see a lot of other companies come out and say, oh, hey, we're going to start building something.
That's right. Really interesting, too, when you think about Taiwan Semiconductor, which came up in that conversation and has a massive fab in Arizona and building others now. Laura Davison, thank you so much. As we turn as well for a look at how oil markets moved on the president's announcement, Bloomberg's Vonnie Quinn is with us from World's headquarters in New York with more in tonight's power moves. Vonnie, I know you're covering a couple of moves here as well, including the reaction that we're seeing to chips after hours. What do you have?
Yeah, oil sort of went down the list of priorities when we started to see the action post-market right after we got the president saying that he was going to tariff chip makers 100% if those chips were coming in from outside of the United States. Now, that is not, that is definitely a maximalist approach. We were waiting, as Laura said, on these sectoral tariffs. And of course, that's just something the president said, right? He hasn't done this yet, and we're waiting to see what the chip makers are going to be announcing over the next few days. Already, we've been reporting that Jensen Huang was at the White House today, and the president also gave away something very interesting there. He said that Micron was at the White House yesterday. Now, that hadn't been reported anywhere. And if you looked at the action, immediately the chip makers were down, and then little by little they started to creep higher. And in fact, Nvidia is up fractionally. Applied Materials, which had just announced maybe about half an hour ago that it was going to invest $200 million in Arizona, that's higher. Intel is up 3%. So you are seeing, a variety of market reactions to these announcements. Of course, Joe, we should mention that it was Apple's day today because Apple was making that $100 billion commitment on top of the $500 billion it already had done, saying that it's going to build a manufacturing academy in Detroit, a rare earths recycling line in California, and it's going to make its own electricity to power its own plants. So President Trump is obviously leveraging what he can over these CEOs, and it will be very interesting to hear what the chip CEOs come back with in the next few days before these sectoral announcements are, made official.
That's for sure. Vonnie, the president just made a couple mentions about the Fed, knowing that there has been some discussion today about a potential temporary installment of a new Fed governor once the Kugler seat is vacated. He says they're down to 3 Fed candidates, doesn't think Scott Bessent would take the Fed job. Of course, he had said earlier this week that Scott Bessent had taken him out of the running here. But an interesting quote, probably going temp then permanent, he says, acknowledging Bloomberg's reporting from earlier today. Vonnie, obviously that could be a market mover at some point here, but I do want to ask you about oil, where we might have started our conversation on any other day. The president talking about tariffs on India, 25% when it comes to his reaction to what he likes to call helping to fund the Russian war machine. We also have the potential for secondary sanctions on a number of other nations at the end of this week. What does the oil market think of this?
Yeah, I mean, the oil market has had a lot to digest this week, right, Joe? It also had those barrels brought back onto the market by the 8 countries in OPEC Plus that decided they were going to, not restrict themselves as much. So we had that meeting from those 8 countries over the weekend, and that decision meant that lots more barrels were brought back online. So we have a very soft market at the moment. We had Brent crude trading at 66.94. WTI in New York was trading at 64.35 at the end of the session. And of course, this relationship with India does seem to be deteriorating, at least at the moment. If India comes back with something, or if there's, some other promise that India will divert its purchases of oil away from Russia, then perhaps that relationship will improve. But for the moment, that's what's happening. And we also know that Russia's oil will still go into the market. It's not like it's going to disappear. It's not like Russia is not going to be selling. But at the moment, President Trump does not want India to be buying that oil. And so, all of that said, this oil market is saturated. There are plenty of barrels out there for everybody, and you can see that reflected in the price.
You sure can. Bloomberg's Vonnie Quinn. It's great to have you on board this evening, Vonnie. Thank you. They did wrap up, by the way, in the Oval Office. And joining us now on Balance of Power, this evening's political panel, Jim Messina is here, founder, CEO of the Messina Group, our Democratic strategist, alongside Republican strategist Sarah Chamberlain, the president, CEO of the Republican Main Street Partnership. It's always great to have both of you with us. Jim, I'll start with you here. You know what it's like to be in the Oval Office when the chiefs of corporate America come to town, and the president has made a habit of this. Now, in this case, corralling Tim Cook. He had several others for unrelated events in the Oval Office to talk about this grand domestic investment. Is this something that Republicans and Democrats can see eye to eye on?
Oh, absolutely. The CHIPS Act passed last year and the year before with bipartisan support. Growing our chips and our AI capability is a nonpartisan issue. When you work in the White House, Joe, what you realize is the White House is really the bully pulpit and the place you can pull people together and cajole them to do a whole bunch of things. And that looks like it's what President Trump did, building off the CHIPS Act. I think Tim Cook's commitments today are great and continue to build real strength as we look towards a future that is AI driven in the American economic sector.
This could be considered one of the hallmarks of this administration. Sarah, Jim mentions the CHIPS Act. Donald Trump was not a fan of that legislation. He's got his own approach here, making deals directly with companies. Is that more the Trump or Republican brand? How does that work for you?
So Donald Trump is a deal maker. We're very excited about this. Though the CHIPS Act passed, a lot of the Republican Main Street Partnership members voted for it. Really nothing happened. No ground was broken to start to produce any. So we're really excited about today. I think this is a great step forward for all American people. And we're very excited to have Apple. It's certainly a company that everybody uses their products. And it was wonderful to have Tim Cook in the White House today doing this.
Red headline crossed the terminal while the president was talking, Jim, a 100% tariff on chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. Does that approach support or negate the progress made by the CHIPS Act and deals like this one today?
Well, look, you and I have joked in the past about a taco trade, Trump chickening out. I think there's zero chance this 100% ever gets done. Yeah, what they're doing, and you've already saw this when him talking about my car and other folks in there. He threatens 100% tariff. Everyone races in to cut the deal Sarah was talking about. And then they announce it doesn't apply to Apple. It doesn't apply to any of these people. So color me skeptical whether anyone's going to pay that 100%.
Chips go pretty well with tacos, Sarah. Do you agree with Jim? Does this ever see the light of day?
I do agree with Jim. I think 100% is not going to be realistic. I think you're probably going to be 40 to 50%, though. I don't think it's going to go back to nothing. The president, he loves to throw these numbers out here. It gets a lot of attention. But, again, he's a businessman. He likes to negotiate. This is a negotiating tool.
So we start a whole other one here, and we've got other tariffs that are going to be taking effect in the days and weeks ahead with a string of deadlines, including tomorrow, by the way, when reciprocal tariffs will be the story. Really interesting to hear the president in our final moment here, Jim. Also to hear from Tim Cook. The line that jumped out to me, Apple is leading the creation of an end-to-end silicon supply chain right here in America. That's not just lip service. Is it something Apple can really pull off while Donald Trump is in office?
Well, look, I think Tim Cook was really honest that there's some things they can absolutely do. They've now committed to 100% of the glass being in the U.S. All the AI is there, all the designs there. But you saw him stop very carefully and say there's still going to be end-line assembly done somewhere else. We're not going to have 100%. And I think the president is starting to understand that and seemed to acknowledge it during his press conference.
I don't know if the aim is to actually make iPhones here in the United States, Sarah. A lot of folks are pretty skeptical about that, but it's a story that we're going to be following here at Bloomberg, and we do appreciate all of your insights. Sarah Chamberlain, Jim Messina, and our great panel, we thank you so much for the time. Check out the Washington Edition newsletter. If you want to learn more about what happened today at the White House, you can find it on the terminal and online. And we thank you for joining us on Balance of Power. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'll meet you back here on Bloomberg TV and radio.